This is David Brand here with Honeycomb Digital Investments. I've got Carol Goforth and Baxter Hines as well for another regulatory update in the world of cryptocurrencies and crypto transactions. This week, we're going to just talk briefly about some of the larger companies, some public companies that are filling up their treasury with digital assets or simply buying digital assets. The big one in the news this past week was Elon Musk and Tesla announcing that they had taken a substantial position in the cryptocurrency. Baxter, what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's big news. I mean, you just see another big case of corporations getting involved, either from, in this case, holding the asset or they're building infrastructure. Just the whole digital wave just continues to grow, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. In fact, I'd say the pace is accelerating here. So really exciting times. Everything started really with MicroStrategy, that's really the first big use case that I can point to. A lot of publicity around that, and now here we have, Elon Musk, the world's richest man, putting money behind it. That's about as glowing of an endorsement as you can get. So, Carol, I don't know, any thoughts from you? What your thoughts are next with corporations, or how you interpret this news?
I don't know what's coming next. I do kind of agree that the pace is accelerating. The Tesla purchase was 1.5 billion. So that is such a huge block. If you have been following the pricing of Bitcoin, a week ago, Bitcoin was trading at around $37,000 per coin. And as of today, it's over $47,000. Yesterday was briefly over 48,000. So the impact of that announcement, which came just 5 days ago on Monday when Tesla did its filing, it really has had an impact. I think the pricing volatility might be in part attributed to such a huge purchase. I think we might see some concern from regulators about the impact. There's speculation, is Elon Musk going to get hit by an investigation from the SEC because of that? Is there some ulterior motive? And I don't think any of that's true. I really think that if you are looking for a diversified asset base at a time when a lot of my regular investment advisor friends are saying the market's due for an adjustment, and they're not talking about the Bitcoin market, they're talking about the stock market. We have been in a bull market for so long that an adjustment is coming. And so if you were worried about that and you want to diversify from an economic standpoint, putting some portion of treasury into something like crypto actually is sound investment advice. So I would not be surprised at all to see the pace of that kind of purchase picking up.
I totally agree, and I think it's twofold. I think the momentum is incredibly strong with new corporations wanting to get in. But on the other side, whenever you have a debate going on, there's the naysayer. And I don't know how many naysayers are going to have that much credibility left to push back. I don't want to be ultra bullish on what's going on, but when people want to pipe in and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be buying the Bitcoin, it's going to be really hard for them to do that, because someone's going to say, hey, you were telling me the same thing when it was 5,000 or when it was 10,000, and now it's 40,000 plus. So it's gone up 4 times in value. And maybe if we hadn't listened to you, we'd be in a lot better economic shape right now. So I think this gives, I don't want to say the green light, but it does give a lot of momentum to other CEOs and CFOs who are looking to get into this space, the ammunition they need to sort of, at a minimum, put their toe in the water, so to speak. And they don't even have to just look at Bitcoin. They could be saying, look, I've heard about this blockchain thing or distributed ledger technology, that it might be able to be used to run my supply chain, or maybe it's going to be used to prevent my goods from getting counterfeited, or maybe like something like Deutsche Telekom, where they're looking to trade cell phone minutes. All these different use cases well, why don't we go ahead as a CFO of a major corporation and buy some of the coins or some of the economic interest in this stuff that we may be using in the future? And all of that is incredibly bullish from at a minimum from an adoption standpoint.
Yeah, and if you look at what's happening in the Bitcoin future market, I think you see that that's not just an optimism that you and I have. I was reading just today that 12% of folks think Bitcoin is going to top out at over 100,000 this year in terms of purchasing, I mean, betting money on it, because essentially that's what you're doing with the futures purchase. And 21% think it's going to top out over 70,000, which is, not a fourfold doubling, but it is a significant increase in the value of this asset. And I think that when you see that kind of broad spread optimism, enthusiasm, you're right that it becomes much harder to make a convincing case that this is not an asset worth investing in. Now, having said that, you do want to caution people about not investing for the very, very short term. You do have remarks from regulators like Janet Yellen who come in and say, oh, we're worried about money laundering. We need to be very vigilant. And comments like that will have the potential for sharp, short downturns. And in fact, if you just, again, trace through the history of Bitcoin pricing since the start of this year, it's not been a nice, steady upward progression. So you do want to be putting money in for the long term, which is why I think it makes sense particularly for larger corporations that have a pool of funds. They want to diversify. They can weather a short downturn. If you're close to retirement and you're looking to put it in your retirement account, maybe not so much, but a long-term investment strategy seems to make a lot of sense given where we are.
I got a question. This is more of a philosophical, sort of purpose-driven question when it comes to crypto transactions and cryptocurrency. But the idea of decentralization, not having, the concentration of power when it comes to currency or the financial system. How do you juxtapose that with the fact that the largest bank or the oldest bank in the country is now, going to be, controlling some portion, depending on how many folks custody Bitcoin with them, right? Does that sort of fly in the face of what the whole point of some of these cryptocurrencies are set out to do, or do you think that it gives it more credence and makes it more of a real asset, so to speak?
I was never a true believer in the original cypherpunk kind of egalitarian, democratic, get rid of the government, completely private. They're never going to know what I'm doing with my money kind of mindset. I'm not a huge fan of Monero because I do see the potential for abuse. I think of myself much more of a realist. And I think regulators are realists as well. So, yes, you're right. This is a departure from some of the early adopters, the early enthusiasts who really did want something that is private and completely egalitarian. But the truth is, Bitcoin has never been that. Bitcoin has always been subject to the presence and influence of what in the space we wind up calling whales, the really big investors. So yeah, it's a departure from the theory. It's not a huge departure from the reality. And the truth is things evolve, and what cryptocurrencies are doing, what crypto assets are doing, is they are evolving into the mainstream. And I think that is a very, at least potentially, a very good thing.
And I'd agree with everything you said. I think as the adoption goes up, that means a bigger portion of the population is using it. And I haven't seen any firm estimates on this, but in my opinion, 95+% of the population is very comfortable with regulation. They're very comfortable with having more safeguards around their assets. And so that's naturally going to come along with all of this. And again, from a corporate side, seeing MasterCard talking about getting into digital assets. We saw PayPal getting in. That's just going to bring in a larger swath of the general population. And those people are okay with this sort of centralized, gatekeepers, if you will. Another big corporation that bought into it for its investors was Mass Mutual. I mean, that's about as conservative of a money manager that you can get, or an insurance firm. And so you are starting to see more and more people come in. And I've used the analogy before of the Wild West with crypto and with digital assets. And let's apply that to, California in, whatever it was, 1849, the 49ers were coming across trying to find gold, and it was a sort of a lawless land. Well, after a while, more and more people kept coming across the country or from around the world to live in California. And it's all of a sudden it started being regulated, and its laws and just the general rules of a society started to be more of the way of life than the old ways that people may have remembered from yesteryear. So same thing's happening right now in crypto.
Yeah, and I see, it's not just the huge for-profit businesses. I see universities accepting donations in Bitcoin. Surveys going out as to whether or not universities would be willing to accept tuition payments in various crypto. You see major 501c3 charitable organizations like Heifer International being involved in the cryptocurrency space. So I just, in many ways, perhaps this is just an idea whose time is coming, if it's not already come.
Well said.
All right. Well, we'll be back next time with further developments. But thank you all for taking the time to listen. Thank you all for
Thanks so much. Enjoyed it as always.
As always.